I'm joined by Tantra teacher Foca Yariv, who will be explaining the importance of practicing erotic, amorous continence for our personal well-being and for a more loving and passionate relationship. So, Foca, eros, is eros just a more poetic term for sex?
No. I mean, the idea is as follows. We have an energy within us which is a creative energy. And that creative energy can take fundamentally two ways of expressing itself. Either through a sexual behavior, which consequently will lead to objectifying towards maybe a bit more superficial approach to the act of love, a certain kind of grabbing in essence state, which is not just related to the erotic act or to the intimate act, but it's kind of an attitude in life. And the erotic expression of the creative potential is a way in which that energy, that creative energy, has within it a force that leads us towards a sense of oneness, a deepening of love, a poetic expression of self. So eros, in essence, is not merely about the act or the erotic act, which is in a way a culmination of the erotic energies, but it's a way of living. So eros and sex are fundamentally different, though they look a bit alike. My teacher, when he told us about this first time years ago, he said, it's a bit like the difference between sugar and honey. Both are sweet to the tooth. The sugar has many horrific effects now for our health, while honey is extremely beneficial, nuanced, and has great benefits for our well-being. So eros is a way in which one is able to integrate the creative potential, the desires which are fundamental for us, in a way that exalts the spirit. While sex is a way in which those desires control us. I mean, it started, in the West, in the symposium, there was a lot of debate there between Socrates and Plato about the idea of eros and what is exactly the erotic way of being. And this is why came the idea of platonic love. Platonic love doesn't mean that the two should not touch or be together. Platonic love literally means that they should not infuse the relationship with the sexual energy that degrades or atrophies the spirit. Now, it can be that the two will not have of that sexual energy, but will have fully erotic relationship. That is actually what Plato meant there, and with the idea of the platonic relationship. So that is a massive difference that often for men is difficult to understand. Now I've been teaching this for 2 decades almost. And women are much more intuitive in the way they relate to the erotic act. They also, of course, have a lot to work, but there is a bit more of an intuitive way of relating to that intimate act. While for men, it takes a real reconfiguration of the way we relate to lovemaking, and so forth. So that is it's an extremely valuable education for the soul to awaken and to really feel how there is no differentiation between how you are with a man, with when you love her and you're sweet to the woman that you love, and in the bedroom. It should be a continuation, because some men reported to me and said, look, it's very nice and romantic. When I go to the bedroom, either I lose confidence or I become a little bit cross, and something doesn't click, and we both a bit ignore it because we don't want to talk about it. So it creates a continuum of how we are with one another.
So do taboos and instincts play a big role in it kind of having to get rid of the taboos and the instincts, and, if you like, unlearn bad thinking or bad habits and get some good habits? How does that work?
I mean, taboos are social construction that are aimed to protect the people from their instinctual behavior, which instead of relearning, we put a taboo there. And in that way, you say, but at least we don't get hurt by those energies. But also you don't learn how to use the good part in them. Imagine that you have a wonderful apple, which half of it is great and half of it is rotten. Now, if you taboo apples, you will lose the good half. And this is very often what happens. People notice, the act and the game between men and women is very strong. So let's taboo it. Let us decide who gets married with who, how they are together, and how the whole interaction unfolds, and then we solve the problem. Well, completely not, because those taboos create a lot of inner tensions, because you actually haven't learned why the taboo is even there after so many generations of tabooing. So this is how kind of the taboos are there together with, they were put there to protect from the instinctual behavior, but we haven't really learned how to re-educate ourselves. And this is where the idea of contemplative eroticism, looking within, understanding one's own desires, recreating somehow the mature way of relating to that which is in our heart, that is the way in which we remove taboos, because there is as well a movement that started in the end of the last century about removing taboos. But if you remove taboos without the education, you actually create more harm. So it's not about the removing of taboos just for the sake of removing taboos and a bit of no more of this social confinement. It's about we remove the taboos so we learn what is the actual way in which is aligned with our heart, with our soul to manifest, and in that way we don't need those taboos anymore.
So how do we know that we're longing for the erotic experience?
Well, the knowledge of that is very individual. I would say like this, I would say that if we inquire deep within what we really long for, it will be varied and nuanced for each and every one, but we will notice a nuance of a longing for fulfillment. Now, that fulfillment usually isn't achieved by an act which is instinctual or by an act which is rushed. And then when we start to deepen a bit more what actually fulfills that, what is a deeper longing of our heart, there we will find the erotic nuance. So it's more of a matter of raising the question, what actually am I looking in that act? If I'm just looking to have a bit of an adrenaline and a rush, 2 minutes will be enough. But is that actually fulfilling?
And are there barriers to looking into one's innermost being and for eros?
There's a lot of self-inflicted barriers, often due to the education. I mean, nowadays many grew on pornography. I'm in the generation just before pornography became a thing. So big. So there is a lot of social confinement. This is the way those barriers are created. And then the way to break the barrier is to relate to yourself and as authentic as possible without those confinement of the society, of what we falsely learn through pornography, what we falsely learn through friends who told us how things should be, but actually to look inside, see what is truly fulfilling me, and then exploring it with the person that we love there.
And does that mean overcoming inhibitions?
The overcoming of inhibitions is similar to the idea of taboos. Inhibitions are structures that we create in order to protect us. But very often we don't need those protectors. They are there as if we have those inhibitions, then that energy won't touch us and it's okay. Well, actually, when we look at the real essence of it, we will be able to remove those inhibitions. Like, for example, nudity. Everybody takes a shower naked, I hope. So, I mean, why will we so inhibit to take a bath in the ocean naked? I mean, if you would look at it from the perspective of, it's water, why would you do any difference? Well, we have a lot of that because we created them years of that kind of thing. Oh, this is how we protect ourselves. This is how nobody sees us. And those inhibitions also makes it so that we are inhibited from our own self, in essence. And then we have parts in us which we have a memory that they exist, but we are not in touch with. And they create frustration, superficiality, anxiety comes down to it because we don't really know who we are. We don't know how to fulfill ourselves. Imagine that you are always hungry, but you don't know what food you're hungry for. So you're constantly hungry for something, but you don't know what will fulfill you. That's very much the world of sexuality nowadays. Everybody are looking for something to fulfill them, and nobody finds. And some people who learn the mechanism make a lot of money in the meanwhile.
So hungry and presumably frustrated.
Yeah. Trying to quench your thirst with salty water is a good way of being really frustrated.
So Foca, can you talk me through the technique for discovering erotic, amorous continence?
Well, the technique, I can share with you a bit my story, and then within it we will have a bit more of the technicalities of it. My brother, which is my best friend as well, when I was 17, he started practicing Tantra, and he came and said, "Look, Foca, it's amazing. All you need to do is not to ejaculate, and then you can prolong the lovemaking in this way." And he explained me the basic, and I thought he's pulling my leg, like often all older brothers do. And of course I couldn't do it in the beginning. I had more hormones than blood, I think. I was, you're 17, you're a teenager. But then I had an intuition already back then that ejaculation isn't healthy for me. I noticed that I was a runner, I was playing football. I realized that my performance goes down.
So you noticed that it was draining you?
Yeah, when I was 16, I stopped masturbating by myself. And when he told me about this when I was 17, I said, okay, I understand why, but I never managed to do it with a woman. And then, to be honest, it took me 2 years of complete failures, one after another, which I must say frustrated me in the beginning, because he told me, oh, it's so amazing and you can have many orgasms, and I just had the same old short interactions.
How did that make you feel?
It made me, it daunted me the challenge, and I realized how important it is for me to actually become a man in this world, to achieve self-mastery. It was a hard 2 years because the challenge was big. It was really daunting. It was too big for me in moments, but I knew that is truer to myself. And as a man, which I was a growing man, I was in my 18, 19, I was growing to my masculinity, I realized that I won't be able to be a full man if I don't master myself. And already back then I realized that the power of masculinity lies in the ability of facing challenges with the joy of transformation and opportunity that those challenges represent. And I think that kept me going. And then in my first experience in 2004 June, I had my first time in which I experienced the erotic act when I made love with my girlfriend at the time, in which not only I managed not to ejaculate, but I managed to finally savor the full ecstatic experience of oneness. And that moment was so mind-boggling, because I felt all the pleasure in each and every vein in my body, but without this loss of energy that immediately appears after. But on the contrary, it just entered in a crescendo, it just propelled a certain impulse of energy within me that I realized that's what he was talking about.
Your first experience of the creative energy.
My first experience of the erotic experience, God, we were so loving, so infused, and it was the first time that I managed to have an orgasm without ejaculating and fully enjoying it. Because beforehand I was trying and I wasn't enjoying it anymore, because I used to go a bit to the bedroom like it's a battlefield. We're gonna make it this time, baby. And she was looking at me, how about love and tenderness? No, I was going a bit my bad. I was
goal oriented.
I was very goal oriented. Now I have to learn how to control my energy, and I realized that was a completely failure in as an attitude. Because I realized years after, which now I'm also sharing my knowledge with friends who are coming and joining the path in that way, the path of masculinity. Say, the first thing is to remember that it's about love. And then gradually, when we love one another, we will also learn how to control and master the energies better. And it took me a while to understand it. That's why I had the first 2 years were really difficult. But then when I started to learn it and I started to have success in it, it left such a mark on me. that I realize how valuable it is for me as a man. And I dedicate many hours of personal practice of yoga and meditation in order to master the creative potential. And I realize that without that, I'm like, as an easy analogy, there is a hole in my fuel tank. And I never managed to reach the destination which I'm aiming for as a man. I'm never aiming to reach the peak of myself because it drains me. And I realized the value of it. And then I started to learn through trial and error and luckily we were a group of very good friends, still very good friends, to share impressions with one another. And there came the importance of, as I said, love, a very long foreplay and enjoying the foreplay very deeply. Way of starting the intercourse, which is extremely slow, very sensual, intimate, connecting, always being attentive to the way the energy flows within me, never exaggerating, never going on my desire, while not refraining from being there, because the famous think about painting a wall or of your grandma and then you will be able to control more. I mean, I love my grandmother, God bless her soul, she died, but I would not want to think about her when I make love. I mean, it just doesn't fit the situation. So instead of kind of going away in order to control the energy in my mind, but to actually be fully present and in that way to master the energies, those were just some of the keys that made it so that in the beginning, given as an analogy, I managed to 1 in 10 lovemaking was a successful, the other 9 was not very good. It started to change to 8 to 2, 7 to 3, until started to be continuous success, and then many years of mastering the energy like this, which radicalized my existence completely. I cannot even imagine how it would be without that mastery, without that control at my side.
So you discovered that as well as a physical approach, you needed to have a tender-hearted approach and to be very open to what might happen with your lover.
There's a few things here. One of them is that love is the strongest alchemical force. And the second part is an expression of love is empathy. And as a man, I'm not as well wired as a woman, physically, to experience all the ecstatic nuances of the erotic union. And the only way that I can experience as vast and as nuanced erotic fulfillment is by being extremely empathic, which is a consequence of love. And then being empathic is as if my heart becomes like a mirror, and all the nuances of joy, happiness, the erotic frenzy, love that she experienced, when my heart is mirroring her, being empathic, they replicate in me, they duplicate in me, and then I feel the same ecstasy. Because a woman is so much more capable erotically than us men.
Is this something that you find you spend a lot of time in your classroom teaching to men?
I must say, I found now an increasing movement of men that realize that ejaculation isn't the way forward, which is a wonderful start, but then they don't know what to do with it. So they realize, yes, probably that's not how I need to do it. And then to infuse the lessons for men with the importance of love, the importance of empathy, the importance of self-mastery, the importance of training. All those are fundamental for men so they can learn this art. A man has to train. That's part of our nature as men. This is how we grow. And the relationship with women, and particularly lovemaking, represents one of the best places for us to train our masculinity. Because there we need to train such a complex gamut of qualities as men, and that is so valuable for us. This is why they say the way a man is in the bedroom is the way the man is in life. You want to be successful in life? Well, the bedroom is a great place to start your training. And then to really be good at that, like to train it.
And yet it's so common for lovemaking to be rushed.
Yeah, I mean, it's rushed because, as we said in the beginning, of the sexual energy, and it's rushed because that's the unfortunate default mechanism of men. The men's sexual arousal is very quick, and he falsely believes that also the women will be as quick. It's completely not true. The fact that a man usually is ready within 10 to 60 seconds, depending on his age, otherwise he has an erection and he said, but I'm good to go now, doesn't mean that the woman is ready. And more than this, he's not ready. We often say in Tantra that a woman enjoys the foreplay and the man needs the foreplay, because in the foreplay, man is able to diffuse and to incorporate his entire being in the act, so it doesn't just stay very localized in one point in his body. And then by integrating somehow in that way, man is moving from the rushed, it's just a matter of scratching an itch. Because that's sometimes how people relate to the erotic. I mean, we have this itch now, we feel a little bit, let's just scratch it and move forward. Here we speak about is something so much more fundamental in us, that we don't just scratch an itch. We aim to look deep inside of why are we engaging here. We aim to feel the love, and then aim to offer as much pleasure to the other one. Aim to create more love, because that's why we call it making love. We create more love when we make love in that way. And then you don't want to rush it. On the contrary, I would, less than an hour and a half, it's for a tantric perspective, it's called a quickie. So, and I know for most people, they think about an hour and a half. It's, if you add all the lovemaking that they do in the month, they reach to an hour and a half. So, yeah.
Well, people say they don't have time, of course.
Well, then it's a matter of priority, because people find a lot of time for things that might not be as essential for their being as that. I would cut an hour or two of Netflix for great lovemaking. I think Netflix will survive without those 2 hours of ours.
It already sounds like an amazing benefit that a man discovers his masculinity and it kind of trains it in a way, gets to know his own individual authentic masculinity. What other benefits are there from practicing erotic amorous continence?
First of all, the things I've noticed the most is physical. I noticed that a week or so after ejaculation, I still feel a little bit heavy. That's why it became famous, this idea, because Muhammad Ali was not ejaculating before fights, and everybody knew that kind of he keeps his stamina, and this is why he was pretty impressive. So that was the first thing I noticed. Physically, it feels very different. Then I noticed, and I have as well, every time I say it in workshops, all the men nod and smile, because they know it's the truth. When a man ejaculates after lovemaking, his romantic virility, his enthusiasm in that way immediately goes down. A man is super conquering and charming before he ejaculates, and after he ejaculates, he just wants to be alone, and there creates a cut between him and the woman he loves in that moment.
Yes, it's very hard for a woman, because then a woman will feel rejected.
Also for the man, it's very hard, but he doesn't know what to do with himself. Men suffer in that moment, because they feel, it's a kind of, they feel that the woman is unhappy, they feel that they haven't really excelled, and they just kind of feed out of one another frustration in that moment, and they cannot even really talk about it.
So it's a sense of failure.
It is a sense of failure. It is a sense of failure because a man fully he feels that the woman isn't completely fulfilled, and he feels in himself that after he lost the energy there, he ejaculates, that he doesn't have the same oomph, to put it like that, in how he was before. The 2 minutes before ejaculating and 2 minutes after ejaculating, the man feels completely different. His hormonal release is completely different. So he feels the let's roll around and like in the movies have a cigarette and yeah, it was good. He feels like that. He feels more to retract. And for a woman, it becomes a bit odd because he was so cute 2 minutes ago. And what happened now? Well, because he doesn't feel it anymore. So for the men to overcome this instinctual way of being, that stop feeling it, it's fundamental.
And how can women support men when they're learning erotic amorous continence?
It's a combination of qualities. The first one is to be an inspiration. When a woman inspires a man, because she's always a nuance of playfulness and charm and focus on what is essential, then a man is motivated, has a genuine aspiration. Women, if they try to push a man to do something, it's a little bit like a person trying to push an elephant in a direction they wish to go. There's no way you're going to push an elephant. They're massive, those animals, but with a bit of grass, the elephant can go a long way. So here we don't speak about a woman manipulating the man. She just is an inspiration, and then the man follows like the elephant in the grass. And then with this, she needs to be very patient and enjoy the process of learning that they have together, because they're doing it together. It's not that you learn, I'm perfect man. A woman isn't perfect. She has her own path of transformation. Erotically, she's much more intuitively equipped and understanding multiple orgasm and not to lose the energy is much easier. But she will have her other challenges, and she just needs to, in that moment, to be very patient, inspiring, and not to let herself manipulated by the men, because I heard that in many cases that women say, oh, he just this time he ejaculated, it's okay, it happens like this. To be very firm, say, look, let's try it properly. Let's really do it. Patient with you, we can take our time, no rush, and inspiring by always looking towards the highest ideals that are there, cultivating genuine love, tenderness, softness. That will really help.
So it's not caring to let them off the hook.
No. That's a very. It will create a relationship of a bit of a haggle. I'll not look at your blind spots. You don't look at my blind spots, and let us go together. That's exactly what Jesus meant. Don't let the blind lead the blind. Don't let those who don't look at your blind spots and you don't look at their blind spots lead one another. Because that's exactly where we become a weak couple. A strong couple is the one inspiring the other one to look at the points that they need to grow in. And they inspire one another.
So when we take this new man who has discovered erotic amorous continence and is discovering his masculinity, and we're in relationship, a woman is in relationship with this man, what are the other benefits? How are they in the rest of their life?
Well, one of the biggest advantages in the increase of the way that they play the polar role. A man who has experienced multiple orgasm and he is fulfilling his woman erotically, really fulfilling her, he will feel extraordinary as a man, not as a macho, not narcissistically, but just as a man who is settled and centered within all masculinity. There's something extremely virile in it, within. Well, for a woman, when she experiences multiple orgasms and she is loved, adored, cherished in this way, as if her femininity will blossom and bloom. The easiest analogy that often we use is that with a flower. When the sun is radiating and shining on that flower, the flower blooms and takes its natural beauty. When a woman is cherished, cared for, adored in that way, fulfilled, then she will take her nuance of femininity in a natural way. And both of them are in this way fulfilling their purpose. So that's one of the most important ways in which it manifests. And the second aspect is that of love, if I have to put it like that. Because they will cultivate a love which is based on deep spiritual friendship, on deep support one another, and on profound experiences of intimacy which teaches them to be intimate with life. And they learn to be intimate with one another, and in that way they learn how to be more infused with life itself, with all and everything. And that will enrich their being, and they will inspire constantly one another like a loop, like a beneficial cycle of inspiration.
So would you, as we finish now, would you give us some tips to encourage people who have perhaps started on the path of erotic, amorous continence and they need a little bit more encouragement?
One of the most important parts is for men to speak out. One of the values is for men to find a group of men who have similar aspiration and not similar complaints. For them to start to find like-hearted men in which they can share a journey and speak properly on the process which they are at, to seek how in each and every step there is a particular nuance to learn. Like any skill that you learn it gradually. So in the first part you need to learn one aspect, and then you continue with another aspect. That's one very important part. And the second part is the cult of training. Love your training. Only if you love your training, it will lead to a transforming force. Love your training because seeing the beneficial challenges as a possibility of growth, taking full responsibility of our masculinity, seeing the beauty of becoming a man, because we are born as gender as man, but we become a man through our efforts. Seeing that, then we have the possibility of triumphing within. And that combination of brotherhood, friendship, like-hearted men, and personal practice, those two, I would say, are the fundamentals to begin the journey.
And to maintain the journey and to spread the word to other men?
Spread the word to other men. I mean, I think it comes... Men will not just go there and share with all the world, this is what I'm doing. Because, I mean, a real man will not need to do that. But what they will do, I mean, it will just come in genuine conversation, because a man that is awakened will tend to create more meaningful friendships. And then the inspiration will go from mouth to ear. So yeah, that one is extremely important. And also, I always tell the men, I know that you're on the right track by the smile on your girlfriend's face. And to really, for a man to have as a clear goal to fulfill and to become the best version of his masculinity, so in that way to inspire the woman who is with.
We've talked a lot about masculinity and the couple relationship, but also the erotic creative energy is a spiritual energy.
Yeah.
How does this work when it is withheld and not lost through lovemaking?
Well, in the Yogic and Tantric tradition, they refer to it as orjas, or as discovered later on in the 40s and 50s by Vivienne Rush as the organic energy. And the idea is that the same energy that produces life can produce an inner life, a new life within. It is the same energy that then, through a process similar to the release of energy from an atomic, the Pluton in the atomic reactions, one has the same inner mechanism that through a small amount of matter, in this case semen for men, one has the possibility of releasing an immense amount of energy that will then create a new man within. Now, if you think about it, that energy, that liquid inside was the sperm, is endowed with consciousness, because it is there and can create a new conscious sentient being. So we take that very potent fluid and we reintegrate it in our being. Because some men, when they think about not ejaculation, they think, oh my God, my testicles will be the size of my head. Well, it doesn't actually happen like this. I can testify it without giving pictures. It doesn't happen like this. What actually happens is the body, when you train it through the yogic methodologies, is able to reintegrate this fluid in superior levels, and then there is a new man born within. A man with all his faculties awakened.
That sounds wonderful.
It is wonderful. Worthwhile the training.
Anything else to add before we end?
To dare. A man needs to dare. A man really needs to dare to reinvent himself. This path isn't for the ones who tend to conformism or tend to even just to play safe. The Tantric path is for the daring. For the men, they have to dare.
Foca, thank you very much.